My mom said I wasn't welcome at Christmas because my stepdad's parents, who hate me, would be there, so I cut all ties with them and stopped their financial support. But a few months later, they showed up at my doorstep. I've always hated phone calls that start with a long pause. They never bring good news. 3 days before Christmas, my mom's hesitation on the other end of the line told me everything I needed to know. Before she even said it, Erica, honey, I think it would be better if you didn't come home for Christmas this year. Nearly dropped my coffee mug, Mom. What are you talking about? It's just, well, Richard's parents are coming and they don't want to see you, and they've made it quite clear. I sank down onto my couch, trying to process what I was hearing. Richard was my stepdad. He'd been married to my mom since I was 10, and his parents had never liked me. But this was different. This was my mom choosing them over me. We've always spent Christmas together, I said, trying to keep my voice steady every single year since Dad died. It's our tradition, I know, honey, but what you're seriously picking other people over your own daughter for? The silence that followed was worse than any excuse she could have given. When she finally spoke, her voice was tight. Erica, they've threatened to cut Richard out of their will if they find out we're still in contact with you. They told us they won't leave him an inheritance and will stop talking to us altogether. So this is about money. I was merely shouting no. It's not just that, she said quickly. I've told them that we haven't been in touch with you for years. I need you to go along with this. It's just this once. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want me to pretend I don't exist in your life? That's your solution, Richards. Parents are difficult people, Erica. They're spiteful and stubborn. We need to make sure they believe no one in the family talks to you anymore. You need to understand. I hung up. I couldn't listen anymore to understand why Richard's parents hated me so much. You'd have to go back more than 20 years. My real dad died in a car accident when I was 4. For 6 years, it was just Mom and me against the world. Then she met Richard, a widower with a 9-year-old daughter named Hannah. When they got married, Richard and Hannah moved into our house. Things were okay. At first, Hannah and I got along well enough. We argued sometimes like sisters do, throwing pillows at each other and fighting over who got the remote normal kid stuff. Richard's parents, though, they hated me from day one. They called me rude and ill-mannered. It's obvious she grew up without a father. They'd say right in front of me, like I wasn't even there when they visited. They'd bring presents for Hannah and nothing for me. They'd talk around me, through me, but never to me. The worst of it happened when I was 14. Mom and Richard went on vacation, leaving Hannah and me with Richard's parents. Usually, we'd stay with my Aunt Sarah, Mom's sister, but she was busy that time. Richard's parents weren't happy about having us, especially me, but they reluctantly agreed. After a week cooped up together, Hannah and I got into a fight over the laptop. We were both bored out of our minds and tensions were high. During the argument, I pushed her, not hard, just a shove, but she lost her balance, fell awkwardly, and broke her arm. The scream that came out of Hannah was blood-curdling. Her grandparents came running. Her grandfather whisked her off to the hospital while her grandmother called Richard hysterical. You need to come home right now, she shrieked into the phone. Erica beat Hannah badly and broke her arm. She needs to be in a psychiatric clinic. She's completely out of control. After that call, everything changed. They locked me in a bedroom, took my phone, and only opened the door to slide in meals. They called me a rabid animal and threatened me with juvenile detention. Mom and Richard cut their vacation short and came home 3 days later. Richard was furious, said he couldn't trust himself to be around me. They sent me to stay with Aunt Sarah for 2 months. When I finally came home, Richard barely spoke to me. Hannah and I made up quickly. Ironically, the incident brought us closer. My parents forced me into therapy for anger issues. I never had. The atmosphere at home was suffocating after that. When I turned 8 and left for college in another city, it felt like escaping prison. During college, I only kept in touch with Mom and Hannah. I studied administration and management, working my ass off to make something of myself. In my junior year, my friend Olivia and I got internships at her dad's restaurant chain. I put together a development plan that shocked everyone. When it actually worked, profits jumped. Within months after graduation, Olivia's dad offered me a job. He was handing the restaurant management company over to Olivia, and she wanted me as her executive director. I'd be responsible for business development and modernization, essentially her right hand woman. Olivia and I transformed that restaurant chain. We set up food delivery services, developed a mobile app, and created workspaces where customers could use laptops while ordering food. We started cooking classes, installed live feed cameras in the kitchens to show off how clean and efficient they were, and designed special zones for selfies in each restaurant. Young people started flooding in. We kept the old customers. And I tried tons of new ones. Business boomed, and suddenly I had a salary I'd never dreamed of for the first time in my life. I had savings. That's when Mom called about Richard's job problems. HEK. Been let go, she explained. We're struggling to make the mortgage payments. Then Richard got on the phone. Erica, I'm sorry for everything. You're our only hope right now, so I agreed to help every month. I sent money for their mortgage. Payment eventually Richard found. Part-time work, but I kept paying anyway. It wasn't a hardship for me, and they'd gotten used to the help I thought I was. Buying a better relationship with them. I was wrong after that awful call with Mom. I sat on my couch for what felt like hours just staring at my phone. My thoughts were a mess. I needed to talk to someone who'd understand. I dialed Hannah's number. Hey sis, what's up? Hannah's cheerful voice was such a contrast to how I was feeling. Mom just called. I said, my voice shaking a little. She told me not to come home for Christmas because your grandparents will be there. Your grandparents threatened to cut Richard out of their will if they found out they still talk to me. Apparently she's been telling them for years that they don't have any contact with me. That's Hannah rarely. Cursed, what the hell is wrong with them? She wants me to play along. I continued. Pretend I'm not part of the family anymore so your grandparents will leave. The money someday? Well, the hell with it. Hannah said firmly, if you're not welcome there, then I'm not coming either. If they're choosing money over you, then they can do Christmas without both of us. Tears welled up in my eyes after everything we'd been through. Hannah was still the one person in my family who had my back unconditionally. After hanging up with Hannah, I felt slightly better. I called a few friends who I knew didn't have family plans for Christmas. By the end of the night, I had organized an impromptu orphan Christmas at my apartment with Hannah and 5 friends. The day before Christmas, Hannah arrived. With a small suitcase and a bag full of decorations, I righted the dollar store. She said, dumping glittery ornaments and tinsel on my coffee table. Your place needs some Christmas spirit. We spent the evening decorating my apartment, drinking wine and catching up. Neither of us mentioned Mom or Richard or the inheritance situation for a few hours. It was just like old times. Christmas Day was nothing like the formal tense affairs we'd grown up with at home. My friends arrived around noon each, bringing food, drinks, or games. We ate too much, laughed too loud, and drank probably more than we should have. It wasn't traditional, but it was real by the end of the night. Even Hannah admitted it was the best Christmas she'd had in years. But of course, reality has a way of intruding. While scrolling through Instagram before bed, I saw a post from Mom there. She was smiling next to Richard's parents in their living room, everyone wearing matching Christmas sweaters. The caption read, so blessed to spend this special day with family. Family. The word felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I wasn't family anymore. I was an inconvenient truth to be hidden away. I couldn't sleep that night. The Instagram post kept replaying in my mind, along with every monthly mortgage payment I'd been making. Every time I sent that money, I thought I was healing old wounds, building bridges. Now I realized I'd just been buying the illusion of family. The next morning, I made a decision. I opened my banking app and canceled the automatic transfer to my parents' mortgage account. Maybe it was petty, but I was done being used. 2 weeks passed. I threw myself into work, grateful for the post-holiday rush of new restaurant customers with their New Year's resolutions to try new places. Olivia and I were working on plans to open a new location, and I welcomed the distraction. Then Mom called. I almost didn't answer, but some part of me wanted to hear what she had to say. Erica, there's a problem with the mortgage payment, she said without even saying hello. Did you forget to send it? I didn't forget, I replied, keeping my voice steady. I kennel it. There was a beat of silence. What do you mean you kennel it? I mean, I'm not paying your mortgage anymore, but we're counting on that money. Her voice rose in panic. The payment is due today. You should have thought about that before you betrayed me for your in-laws' money. I said you chose them over me. Now you can ask them to pay your mortgage. This is about Christmas, Erica. You're being childish. We explained why you explained that money is more important to you than I. A message received. Her tone changed then from panicked to accusatory. I know what you did. You know, you convinced Hannah not to come for Christmas. You turned her against us. What? I didn't. Do you know what I had to tell Richard's parents? That she was seriously ill. I had to lie and make up a whole story because of you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You've gone mad because of this inheritance thing. Normal people don't invent illnesses for their children, Mom. They don't disown them for money. You have no idea what you're talking about. She spat after everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me lately, Mom? Besides kick me out of Christmas and lie about my existence. She hung up on me. The next few months were quiet. Mom didn't call again, and I didn't reach out. Hannah kept in touch, visiting whenever she could. She'd become my only real connection to my old life, the only family member who hadn't betrayed me. I focused on work, throwing myself into new projects. Olivia and I expanded our restaurant brand, opening a new location. Across town. Business was good. Life was stable, but there was still a hollow feeling when I thought about my family. Then one evening in late April, Hannah called. Hey, I'm going to come visit you tomorrow. That okay? Something in her voice sounded off, but I didn't push it. Hannah had always been direct when she wanted to be. The next day, just after 12, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find not just Hannah, but Mom and Richard standing there too. What the hell? I stepped back, almost slamming the door Hannah held up. Her hands, hear them out, Erica. Please. Looking at their faces, Mom's anxious. Richard's uncomfortable, Hannah's pleading. I knew this wasn't going to be a short conversation. They filed into my living room like strangers, which I guess they kind of were at this point. Mom clutched her purse to her chest. Richard stood awkwardly by the window. Hannah cleared her throat. So I think Mom and Dad have something they want to say. Mom took a deep breath. Erica, we came to apologize. What I did at Christmas was wrong. I waited for more, but she seemed to think that was enough. That's it. I finally asked, we miss you. Richard added, the house isn't the same. Without you dropping by the house, I wasn't welcome in at Christmas. The house, where you pretend I don't exist whenever your parents visit. My voice was rising, and I didn't care. You're going to have to do better than we miss you. Hannah touched my arm. Let him finish, Erica. Mom smiled awkwardly. You're right to be angry. We betrayed you. I betrayed you. I sigh. Put money ahead of my own daughter, and I've been sick about it ever since. We don't need your financial help anymore. Richard said I found a new job better than the old one. We're managing the mortgage payments just fine. That's not why we're here then. Why are you here? Asked because we're family. Mom said, her voice cracking, and we almost threw that away for what? For my in-laws' approval? For money we might get someday. It was wrong. Something about her sincerity gave me pause. I've been ready for excuses, for guilt trips, for manipulations. I wasn't prepared for genuine remorse. What about your parents? I asked Richard. They still planning to write you out of the will if they find out we talk? Richard looked down at his hands. I called them after. You stopped sending money, told them I wasn't going to pretend anymore that you're my daughter too. They flew off though. Handel threatened to disown me just like they said they would. We had a huge fight. So what changed? I did. Hannah said I called Grandma and Grandpa and told them I knew everything, that I fully supported you and Dad, and if they couldn't accept you as part of our family, then they'd lose me too. Mom nodded. They called back 3 days later, said they'd calmed down and were willing to accept things. They're not ready to lose Hannah. Didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive them, to have my family back. Another part remembered how easily they'd cast me aside when it was convenient. I don't know if I can trust you again, I said honestly. You shut me out when it suited you. What happens next time? They threatened to cut you off. There won't be a next time, Mom insisted. We've drawn a line. You're our daughter, and that's non-negotiable. I looked at Hannah, who nodded encouragingly, then at Rich, who seemed more earnest than I'd seen him in years, finally at Mom, whose eyes were filled with tears. I'm not saying everything's fine now, I said carefully. It's going to take time, but I'm willing to try. Mom let out a sob and rushed to hug me. I remained stiff in her embrace, not quite ready to give in completely. We've been looking into family therapy, Richard said when Mom finally released me, all four of us, to work through the old stuff, not just this recent mess. Therapy. I couldn't hide my surprise. Richard had always scoffed at my forced anger management sessions as a teenager. It was Dad's idea, Hannah said. Looking proud of him, he says, we all have baggage we need to unpack. I should have stood up. For you years ago, Richard admitted after the accident with Hannah's arm, I knew it wasn't your fault. But I let my parents dictate how I treated you. That wasn't right. I thought about all the years I'd spent trying to win his approval, the therapy sessions where counselors tried to fix me when I wasn't broken the way I'd financially supported them, even after all that, hoping it would make them love me. That evening stretched into hours of painful but necessary conversation. We talked about old wounds I thought had scarred over, but clearly hadn't, about the Christmas betrayal that had been the last straw, about what it would take to rebuild trust. By the time they left, we had a planned weekly family therapy session starting the following month, regular dinners, just the four of us, no in-laws, allowed clear boundaries about what was and wasn't acceptable. Going forward, it wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a beginning. After they left, Hannah stayed behind. She flopped onto my couch with the familiarity of a sister who knew she was welcome. You okay? She asked. I don't know, I answered. Honestly, part of me wants to believe them. Another part is waiting for the other shoe to drop. I get that she picked at a loose thread on my throat pillow. For what it's worth, I think they mean it. This time you should have seen Mom after Christmas. She was a mess, kept saying she'd made a horrible mistake. Did they ask you to arrange this? Hannah shook her head. It was my idea. I was tired of being the go-between, of hearing them talk about how much they missed you while knowing they'd hurt you so badly. I leaned back, suddenly exhausted. I'm not sure family therapy is going to fix everything. Probably not, Hannah agreed. But it's a step, and I'll be there too, making sure they don't backslide. Smiled at my sister. My real sister, regardless of blood. When did you get so wise? Learned from this best, she said, nudging my shoulder with hers. You never gave up on me even when we were kids, and I was a total brat. Now it's my turn to not give up on this family. That night, after Hannah left, I sat alone in my apartment thinking about second chances, about family, both the one you're born into and the one you choose about. Forgiveness, I wasn't sure if I was ready to fully let my parents back in trust. Once broken doesn't mend easily, but maybe, just maybe we could build something new from the pieces of what had been broken. The first family therapy session was as awkward as you'd expect. Dr. Levine, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a non-nonsense attitude, had us sit in a circle and talk about our expectations. I just want my family back, Mom said, dabbing at her eyes. I want to understand why I was so easily disposable, countered Richard, shifted uncomfortably. I want to be a better father to both my daughters. Hannah, always the peacemaker, said I want us to be honest with each other. No more secrets or lies. Dr. Lean nodded. Those are all valid desires. This won't be easy, but acknowledging what you want is a good start. Over the next few weeks, we met regularly. Sometimes the sessions were productive. Sometimes they devolved into arguments or tears, but we kept showing up slowly, painfully. The unpacked years of misunderstandings, resentments, and fears we talked about, why I'd felt compelled to financially support them even after everything that had happened, about how Richard's parents had weaponized their inheritance to control the family, about the Christmas betrayal that had finally broken me. Outside of therapy, we started rebuilding our relationship in small ways. Mom would call just to chat. Richard sent me articles about restaurant management he thought might interest me. Hannah and I maintained our sister bond stronger than ever. 2 months into therapy, we hit a breakthrough when Richard opened up about his own childhood. My parents always used money to control me, he said. Growing up, if I didn't behave exactly as they wanted, they'd threaten to cut me off when I wanted to marry my first wife. They threatened to disinherit me because they didn't approve of her. I stood my ground then, but after she died, I guess I didn't have the fight left in me. So when they started treating Erica the same way, Dr. Levine prompted, I fell back into old patterns, he admitted, looking at me with genuine remorse. I'm so sorry, Erica. Failed you. Something shifted in me that day. For the first time, I saw Richard not as the stepfather who betrayed me, but as someone who'd been manipulated his whole life just like I had been. We both deserved better. I told him by the 3rd month of therapy, we were ready to test our new family dynamics in the real world. Mom invited me over for dinner at their house, my childhood home. I hadn't been there since before Christmas. As I pulled into the driveway, my stomach churned with anxiety. What if Richard's parents showed up unexpectedly? What if this was all an elaborate trap? But when I walked in, I was greeted by the smell of my favorite meal, Mom's lasagna, and a dining room decorated with photos of me graduating college, photos of Hannah and me together, photos of all 4 of us from happier times. We put these back up, Mom explained, following my gaze. They belong here. You belong here. Dinner wasn't perfect. There were still awkward pauses and moments when old tensions threatened to resurface, but it felt like progress. After dinner, Richard pulled me aside. I need to show you something, he said, leading me to his office. On his desk was a legal document. What's this? I asked. I've been working with a lawyer to ensure that whatever happens with my parents' inheritance won't affect what I leave to you and Hannah. You'll both be treated equally in my will, no matter what. I stared at him, speechless. It's not about the money, he clarified quickly. It's about making sure you know that you are my daughter, Erica, not by blood, but by choice, and nothing, not my parents, not their money, will ever change that again. I didn't cry often, but I cried then on the drive home. That night I called Hannah. You won't believe what just happened, I told her. Recounting the evening, I believe it, she said. Dad's been working on that will thing for weeks. He wanted it to be perfect for you. When did everything change so much? I wondered aloud. When you stood up for yourself, Hannah replied. You showed them they couldn't have it both ways. They couldn't treat you like garbage and still expect your financial support. It made them realize what they were losing. She was right. By cutting them off both emotionally and financially, I'd forced them to make a choice, and surprisingly, they'd chosen me. The next therapy session, Dr. Levine asked us to share what we'd learned so far. I've learned that I can't control how others treat me, but I can control how I respond. I said I don't have to keep paying literally or figuratively for people to love me. I've learned that I married a strong woman, Richard said, looking at Mom, who raised an even stronger daughter, and that standing up to my parents was long overdue. I've learned that family isn't just about blood or obligation, Mom added. It's a choice we make every day. Hannah smiled. I've learned that my sister is a badass who doesn't take crap from anyone anymore. We all laughed at that. 6 months after the Christmas that almost destroyed our family, we all went to dinner at a new restaurant my company had opened. As we sat around the table, laughing and sharing stories, I realized something important. We weren't the same family we'd been before. That family had been built on unspoken resentments Fear, an obligation. It wasn't perfect. We still had bad days. Richard's parents were still a complicated presence in our lives, though they'd been remarkably quiet since our reconciliation. Old hurts sometimes resurfaced, but we were committed to working through it together, and that I was beginning to believe made all the difference.